What's going on there, YouTube? And welcome back to another comic book video. This is the channel where we sit down and cover different comic book stories from different comic book companies. Today, we're going to jump back over to Marvel Comics and we're going to cover a classic story. Well, it's not classic yet, but it should be counted for as classic because how great it is. We're going to cover Captain America White. This was the fourth book written by Jeff Loeb that's kind of like a love letter from one character to another. There was Spider-Man Blue, Daredevil Yellow, and Hulk Gray. This was the fourth one, and honestly, I like it a lot. So if you do like today's comic book video, please hit that like button down below and also subscribe to the channel for more content to come in the near future. Also, any suggestions on books I should read? Well, please let me know in the comments below because you never know. Your suggestion could be a future video down the road, but I do hope you enjoy today's video. The book opens up with Steve Rogers and Bucky at the movies back before they had left for the war. Matter of fact, before Bucky became the sidekick of Captain America. We learn that at this point Bucky looks up to Captain America, but doesn't know that Steve Rogers is Captain America. To him, they are two different people, and Captain America is a cool person. Captain America and Bucky have this bond that could be said they are brothers, or maybe Bucky looks at Steve Rogers as a father figure. Either way, they are very close. Now, Jeff Loeb doesn't waste time getting Bucky to find out that Steve Rogers is Captain America, because when they get back to base, you have them say hello to their Sarge and go into their separate tents. That is when you have Bucky try to sneak into Steve Rogers' tent to find out that Steve Rogers is the person he looks up to, Captain America. This leads to Bucky running away scared, because Bucky knows that the true identity of Captain America was supposed to be a secret. Now Bucky knows it feels like he may have messed that up. Now, Bucky trips over some tires where Steve Rogers finds him and helps Bucky back up. This is the moment where you have Bucky ask Steve Rogers to be his partner. Bucky does not want to be left at the military base alone while everyone is out fighting in the war. He doesn't want to lead aside of Steve Rogers. And you have Steve Rogers say yes. This tells you this book is a love letter in a way to Bucky. You'll see what I mean here in a minute. Now you have Steve Rogers train Bucky. The reason why is because Steve Rogers asked the higher-ups about Bucky being his partner. So while Steve Rogers and Bucky waited for word to come back, Steve made sure Bucky looked great in front of the higher-ups. Also to prepare him for the war, because their enemy will kill off anyone no matter who they are. He needs to get Bucky to understand that. Of course, we know that Bucky will get the approval to be the partner of Steve Rogers, mainly because Bucky can be used as a way to get younger men to join the army and get teens to love Captain America. Either way, we get to see Steve Rogers hand Bucky a package, where of course there is a mask inside of it, which of course we get to see Bucky put on his classic outfit, where it leads to Captain America and Bucky getting word they are going out for the war. This leads us into the big moment, where you have Steve Rogers and Bucky going on their first mission, where we see them fighting against some German soldiers and they are kicking their butts. Except Bucky being the new sidekick, he makes a big mistake. He is not taking the job very seriously, where of course a grenade is near a box of explosive items goes off, and Steve Rogers had to quickly make a move to save Bucky's life, where you have Steve Rogers begin to lecture Bucky for what he just did, being reckless in the middle of a war, and of course Bucky does not take criticism very well. where you have Steve tell us that maybe if he was a little bit harder on Bucky, or maybe a little bit nicer to Bucky, Bucky would still be alive, meaning that he feels like he is at fault for the death of Bucky. Now, chapter 2 gives us a moment where we see Steve Rogers wake up when the Avengers have found him frozen and defrost him, brought him back to the world. And of course, he freaked out because the last thing he remembered was Bucky dying. And you had the Avengers trying to calm Steve Rogers down so they can tell him the big news, that he is no longer in the year 1945, that now he is whatever year Marvel wants to establish the moment Steve Rogers came back to the world, where you have Tony Stark tell Steve Rogers that he has something to tell him. We then see Steve Rogers at church, where he is confronted by Nick Fury, and we are establishing their long-term friendship. See, Nick Fury was also there back in World War II, and the question is how Nick Fury is still young. Well, the quick answer is that Nick Fury took the Infinity Formula, so that slowed his aging process down. Either way, you have Nick Fury trying to comfort Steve Rogers for what happened to Bucky, because again, Steve Rogers feels responsible for the death of Bucky. We actually get the chance to see Nick Fury back in World War II, but also we see him with his Howling Commandos. Matter of fact, some of these guys live in the present day as well, thanks to the Infinity Formula. Either way, we see him and his team being trapped by a bunch of enemy soldiers, where it seems like these guys may die by the hands of their enemy. But then they hear something coming from the distance. The question is, who is coming? Of course, it is Captain America and Bucky riding on a Harley and jumping into the mission, getting ready to attack the enemy. Now let me tell you now, Nick Fury could not stand Captain America and Bucky back then. Well, more to the fact, he can't stand the idea of people in costumes really. Either way, these two are what they needed to get the heck out of there before they were killed. So we are establishing the love-hate relationship between Captain America and Nick Fury. We continue to see the bond between Captain America and Bucky, but this time more of another disagreement between the two of them, where Steve Rogers is getting ready to go to a party and also talk to Nick Fury, where Bucky thinks that he will be going to the party as well. Steve tells him no because he is too young. Then we see Bucky kind of hurt Steve Rogers' feelings by saying there will be girls at the party. Steve is confused, what does that even have to do with anything? Where you have Bucky state because Steve used to be 4F, meaning that he used to be unqualified to be in the military. Because before the super soldier serum, Steve was super skinny and weak. So Bucky is stating that Steve had never actually talked to a girl like that before. At the party, we see everyone is having fun. We even see that Steve Rogers has some ladies interested in him. We then see Dum Dum Dugan get upset with the fact the ladies are more interested in Steve Rogers rather than him. So of course, this leads to the two of them getting into a small argument, which ends with Steve actually throwing Dum Dum Dugan out of the window and beginning a fight in the middle of the bar. Of course, Nick Fury was nearby and seriously upset with what he was seeing. After the bar fight, Steve Rogers, Bucky, and Nick Fury Howling Commandos are going on their next mission, which is to help save France. Well, help save Paris. Now they are flying over the ocean and they are trying to get there, except while flying over the ocean, that is when the plane is blown out of the sky. So with the plane falling apart into pieces now, everyone is falling to their death. And Steve Rogers sees his best friend Bucky fall to what could be his death. So for part 3, we pick up after the plane had exploded and everyone had fallen in the middle of the ocean, where we see that Captain America is drowning in the middle of the ocean, where we see that everyone has made it to the surface, but wondering where in the world is Captain America at. Bucky is freaking out because again, that bond he has with Captain America is close, where you have Nick Fury trying his best to hold on to Bucky. Bucky is able to break free and swim to the part of the ocean where Captain America is at. He finds Captain America, but he is unable to pull him up because the shield is adding too much weight for Bucky to move. So Bucky knows what he must do. He must cut the binds that were attached to Captain America and leave the shield in the bottom of the ocean. So of course, you have Steve Rogers and Bucky getting to the surface with the rest of their team. You have Nick Fury begin talking about how they are not going to make it because they are in the middle of the ocean. They have no idea how far they are from the shore. Steve Rogers, of course, responds and says that they will make it if they keep having hope. Also, when Steve Rogers goes for his shield, that is when he realized that the shield is missing. Bucky tells him that he had no choice but to leave it, and Steve Rogers lets Bucky know that he made the right call. Now, of course, they use part of the plane as a way to stay afloat until they make it to the shore. We still have Nick Fury doubt the idea of him and his team should have hope that they will not make it to the shore. Of course, they do make it, and this gives Steve Rogers the chance to brag about whether he was right that they would make it. Now, when they get there, you have everyone kind of chilling around the fire, except we see Bucky having a conversation with someone else, where we learn he feels bad about losing the shield that was given by the president and Howard Stark, and now it is lost. Bucky feels like he might lose his job being the partner of Captain America, except you have Steve Rogers comfort Bucky and tell him that everything is okay. Now, of course, they begin to make their journey through the land they had arrived on. Of course, they run into a fog. As they are working their way through the fog, they run into a mountain. Everyone says they should walk around the mountain, and you have Steve say, it is better to climb up the mountain. Nick Fury says it is hard to climb the mountain without pockets in the mountain that would give them the ability to climb. Nick Fury states it would be helpful to have that shield to make those pockets. That is when Namor appears, the king of Atlantis. Also, he and Captain America used to work together around this time period. He found the shield for Captain America in the ocean and gave it back to Steve Rogers, which now they can climb the mountain. Of course, when they get to the top of the mountain, that is when they are greeted by a tank that is ready to blow them right off the mountain. Now, while they're being held captive by some German soldiers in Paris, we see Steve Rogers talk about how he was nervous and scared about putting Bucky's life in danger once again. Except with Bucky being calm and believing in Steve will find a way to save all of them, it actually calms Steve down. He is no longer scared or worried about failing, that he starts to have hope again that he will be able to save the day. So that is when you have Steve Rogers make his move. So we see him make his move, and this is where we see Steve Rogers being able to take out every single of these men. While he was doing that, you have Bucky cheering him on, and again, it was seeing Bucky having faith in him that really motivated Steve to keep pushing forward, and everything is going to be okay. This leads into an awkward moment between Nick Fury and Captain America, because now they are wondering what they should do with their captives. Nick Fury is down to just throw them off the mountain and let them die, where Steve Rogers is more of not down and killing people. So he basically stops Nick Fury and then tells Nick Fury he has a plan on how they can sneak into the enemy camp. which is that they are going to use their enemy clothes as disguises. So we see them pretending that Nick Fury is a leader of a squad of German soldiers, and they were able to capture both Captain America and Bucky, and they are going to pretend to be their hostages. While they are walking through the trail that would hopefully take them to their enemy camp, you have Nick Fury realize that someone is here, and he begins to freak out, of course. That is when everyone sees a random lady appear, and the question is, who in the world is she? Now this is where we find out that she is not alone, because then her man began to attack Captain America and everyone else. So you have both sides fighting against each other, but we find out the reason why she and her group are attacking them, well, it is because they are dressed as Nazi soldiers. So to her, they must be Nazi soldiers. That is why they are attacking Captain America and his group. Except that is when you have Nick Fury stop everyone and explain that this is a French team they were supposed to meet on their mission. This is Jeff Loeb retconning that there was this French team that was kind of like Nick Fury's team that worked for the French army. They were known as the Cirque de la Revolution, and Marilyn is known as the gypsy of the team, where it is Jeff Loeb telling us that Steve Rogers had another love interest before Peggy Carter, or maybe at the same time with Peggy Carter. For right now, Steve Rogers and Marilyn do not like each other, but in the end, they will. Like I was saying in the beginning of this new relationship being built, they don't like each other, especially when Steve Rogers finds out that Marilyn threw off those soldiers that Steve Rogers and Nick Fury left tied up, because those men deserve to die for everything they have done to the people in France. Now we proceed past their argument and we pick up with Nick Fury and his team, Captain America, Bucky, and Marilyn and her team walking in the sewers, where we learn their mission is to free France from Germany because it has been taken over. Marilyn proceeds to tell everyone that they know who they need to stop to complete their mission. Of course, that person being Captain America's worst enemy, which is the Red Skull. As everyone knows, Red Skull is literally the arch nemesis of Captain America. Just like Green Goblin is to Spider-Man, Magneto was for the X-Men, Lex Luthor to Superman, and Joker to Batman, Red Skull is literally Steve Rogers' worst enemy. Red Skull explains that he was sent here by Hitler himself and that their goal is to burn down Paris, which of course you have Captain America get upset seeing Red Skull and he is ready to go after him. Except you have Marilyn stop Captain America, because to her, if he runs in there, he will get everyone killed. Except for Captain America, he is down with the idea of killing off the Red Skull here and now. If they do, well, that will give them a huge advantage in World War II. Their views are so different on how to handle this situation that they begin to fight against each other, and you have Nick Fury let the two of them fight it out for a moment until he decides they need to stop because they have made so much noise. Pretty sure some guards had heard the noise, meaning that they will have to leave before they are under attack. Now we see the groups go back to this church, where it seems like this is where you have everyone waiting out until they have a plan for how they want to attack the Red Skull. But two, at the same time, we see Captain America and Marilyn in her room. Now Bucky and his little friend are looking through the keyhole to see what is happening, when they see that Captain America is nervous because he thinks Marilyn is trying to make a move on him, but really she wants to talk and fix his shield. The reason why she wants to talk to Captain America is to explain what it's like to have the German army here taking over her country, because to her, Steve Rogers is too lighthearted. He doesn't have the guts to do what needs to be done, because she explains how Germany is trying to get rid of her country, her culture. They are trying to burn down everything about France. And Steve Rogers realized he needs to look through her eyes when it comes to the war, not his own. She even states it must be French army to save France. But before they can talk anymore, that is when they hear a knock on the door, letting them know someone was listening in on their conversation. Of course, we know it is Bucky and his friend. And so you have Steve Rogers open the door angrily and fast as well, which makes the door hit Bucky right in the eye. We then see everyone gather around the table because they have a plan now, where one of their men was able to get inside the base of the Red Skull, then was able to send information about a tunnel they can use to sneak in and stop the Red Skull. While their planning is going on, you have Captain America go check up on Bucky. We learn that Bucky thinks that Steve Rogers does not believe in him anymore because of hitting him earlier. And also Steve Rogers called him James, which is Bucky's real name. No one knew his name. And so it seems like to Bucky that he'll no longer be the partner of Steve Rogers after this mission. Of course, Steve is not done with Bucky. This leads us to the moment where you have everyone getting ready to take the secret passage to get behind the Red Skull group and take them down, and later on take care of the Red Skull. Except that is when Captain America realized Bucky is not there. And Bucky's friend tells Steve Rogers where he went. He went after the Red Skull himself to prove to Captain America that he can be trusted. Now, after that, you have Steve Rogers leave. That is when the team moves in without him, thinking that they can take care of everything on their own, only to find out they have been betrayed by the man they had supposedly on the inside. So they are captured by Baron von Strucker. Getting back to Captain America, we see him right now trying to rush to get to his partner. We learn through him again how important it is to keep Bucky alive. It is because he sees Bucky as a friend, a son, a partner, whatever you want to call it. Bucky is very special to him. But when he gets to Bucky, of course, he sees that Bucky had failed to stop the Red Skull, and actually the Red Skull was able to capture Bucky. So now Steve Rogers has to save Bucky from the Red Skull. With the Red Skull having a hold on Bucky, it really should put Captain America in a spot where he should not be trying to make a move on the Red Skull. Red Skull states that he will blow everything up if Captain America gets close. Except again, this is Bucky. Captain America will do anything to save his partner. Even though you have Bucky yelling out to Captain America to stop before he becomes the sole reason why France is burning, well really Paris, it doesn't matter. Red Skull crossed the line when he grabbed Bucky. Before we can see what is going to happen between the Red Skull and Captain America, we actually jump back over to Nick Fury, his team, and Marilyn and her team being captured by the Nazis and Baron von Strucker, where Baron von Strucker reveals that he knew they were coming because the man who they had on the inside betrayed them. Their guy believed if he had helped the Germans get Nick Fury, Captain America, and Bucky, they will leave France alone. Of course, it was a lie, and he was shot and killed. With his death, it gave Nick Fury, Marilyn, and their teams the motivation to stop Baron von Strucker, which of course they were able to do, but with a price, they lost one of their own. Focusing back on Captain America fighting against the Red Skull, we see what usually happens when it comes to hand-to-hand combat with the Red Skull. where you have Captain America being able to beat down on the Red Skull left and right. He does not care what happens. He only cares about saving his partner. But that is when we see the Red Skull fall to what would seem like his death. Not because of the fall, because of the explosion from the dynamite he was holding on to. Either way, the Red Skull is defeated, and you now have Steve Rogers and Bucky falling to their death. Except they landed some kind of cushion that saved their lives. Nick Fury and Marilyn and their team greet both Steve Rogers and Bucky, where they let them know that everything is okay and no bombs will go off. Also, they were able to stop Baron von Strucker as well, so it seems like the day is saved. After all the commotion, you have Steve Rogers and Marilyn spend some time on their own. They of course finally kiss. Sadly, we never see her again after this book. This leads to Nick Fury and the Howling Commandos saying goodbye to both Bucky and Captain America. This is the moment that really established their friendship. You didn't get to see Bucky and Steve Rogers ride off into the sun as best friends, because that was just one of their adventures in the war. The war went on for years. Of course, we know what happened at the end of the war for them. Getting back to the days where Captain America woke up after being frozen, we see that Nick Fury had taken him to what were the presumed graves for Bucky and Captain America. They had statues over the graves to show honor to them. And you have Captain America break his statue because he should not have one. He came back to life. That is why he should not have one. We also see him feeling bad that he was unable to save Bucky from death. This story takes place in the early days of the Avengers, where he presumed that Bucky was still dead and not the Winter Soldier. It makes sense for him to grieve for the death of his friend. And this is where we are going to end today's video. So please hit that like button down below and also subscribe to the channel for more content to come in the near future. Also, any suggestions on books I should read? Well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But I do hope you enjoy today's video.